Hi, I'm Chris Williams, and I'm a program consultant in the Office of Assessment Accountability. And today I'm going to bring to you 2025 Fall Reporting, Module Number 2, Cohort and Post-Secondary Readiness Scores QC. Let's begin. Hey, there are two module trainings for fall reporting. We have the Data Review QC and we have the Cohort QC and Post-Secondary Readiness Scores. Module number 2 is where we're going to focus on, and that is for our high school staff only. Here's our agenda for today that we're going to cover today for our training. And let's talk about understanding the process. We're going to look at cohort, and then we're going to go into post-secondary readiness. So let's start with cohort. With cohort, you had to get the rosters right, is what we always say. And we started cohort back in February, and we went all the way through July. And then for that, during that time, you can make changes to individual students in Infinite Campus and also in the SDRR. You could also request non-participations if needed, and also to make accountability changes. And all of this leads to our public release and accurate reporting, either in our school report card if it's available, or if it's not available, then it will be in open house. And then once that is publicly reported, then we have our 10-day regulatory data review that follows our public release. Now, we have unique features and steps for cohort for you, as well as for post-secondary readiness. Now, spreadsheets are only available to our DACs for download once. The DAC will distribute the appropriate spreadsheets to staff assisting with post-secondary readiness scores and also with cohort. District and school change will only school staff will only be able to make changes to industry certifications in TEDS, which is our technical education database system. And so, like I said, let's talk about more of what we're going to do in those suggested steps. So in SDRR, what you're going to do is you can make some demographic changes, 100-day changes, request on participations if needed. You also want to make changes if you make changes in Infinite Campus and SDR for cohort if needed. You can also, for changes to post-secondary readiness for academic readiness in SDRR, if needed. Underneath student data detail, you're going to be able to go as a district assessment coordinator, download those spreadsheets from student data detail application. And you want to make sure that your web applications point of contact, your WAPOC, that they have given you rights as a DAC to be able to do that. And if you're a school level user, that they've given you access to you as a school level user. Another thing is underneath student data detail, when you're getting ready to download those spreadsheets as a district assessment coordinator, that when you go to student data detail, you'll see that the file for you to extract out of there is underneath other once you get to that part. And then you'll filter to identify students who need resolution. And then you'll go back to SDRR and also to Infinite Campus to make those changes. Now, TEDS, any questions about TEDS? You also, for both career and dual credit, you'll want to contact our Office of Career and Technical Education. They'll be more than glad to assist you. And I've also linked their email for you for this presentation. Here's an example of the cohort spreadsheet, and you'll be able to see that the screenshot shows an example of this spreadsheet available for you to download from the secure web application. For DACs, for cohort, the spreadsheet will have columns for all the demographic information for the student. Also, it will have in status and date. It'll also have what was their diploma type, if they have one, and then their 100-day accountability, and etc. that will be on the sheets. So you want to look at the spreadsheets to see what you need to go back in and, if any, to change in SDRR. And then for cohort, we'll talk more about those types of things that you'll want to look at when you're filtering, for your cohort spreadsheet. Post-secondary readiness. Now, this shows you an example that will also be available for our district assessment coordinators to be able to download off the secure web application for post-secondary readiness. It will have columns for demographic information for the student if the student met the benchmarks. You'll see that for both academic or career ready. Was there a career bonus given for the high demand area with an industry cert and then your 100-day accountability? So you'll see all of that information on those spreadsheets, but you also want to specifically look for post-secondary readiness, those columns O through R, because they're going to help you with your work. Now, how do I get those spreadsheets? Well, I'm going to have to go in. Once my WAPOC has given me rights to it, I'm going to go to the KDE Secure Web application on our education website, and you'll see the link here. You'll be able to, on the right-hand side, log in with your Microsoft account. Once you've logged in, you're going to get to the Welcome and Home page. And you'll notice that up at the top, you have your latest announcements and lots of resources for you. I spent a lot of time on resources and things like that you'll also want to take it back and look at the first module in more detail. And then you'll notice that it'll show you what is open and closed for this particular module, which is cohort. And you'll be able to get to your student listings. You'll get to go look at your ticket listings, transfer listings, and be able to download those if you've made any changes to those. You'll also be able to get to your post-secondary readiness scores. And you'll be able, once, before SDR closes, you always want to download all of the information, your ticket listings and your student listings, once you've made those changes during this time of review in SDRR. So let's start with cohort. Cohort graduation rate. Let's look at that. Of course, this always follows the student from their first year in high school through their expected cohort graduation rate. And you have the 4-year and the 5-year cohort graduation rate. And here it defines what those, the 4-year and 5-year. Keep in mind, 4-year is what is currently, and 5-year is always lagged a year. Now, things that we always want to make sure that we talk about with cohort is important things in Infinite Campus is with the G codes and the graduation tab. Because if you do not get those correct in Infinite Campus, that will also show that some issues when it comes to students not being on time. And so you always want to go look at those enrollment changes underneath those, make sure that your G codes were in there in Infinite Campus, that the graduation tab was filled out for your students, because that was important to be entered back in the Infinite Campus back in July 31st for your summer graduates that you had. But you can go in and update that information if you didn't meet that deadline, because that's going to be an important piece that you want to make sure to fix, because that will affect your graduation, your cohort 4-year and 5-year graduation rate. Another thing is you always want to go in and look at demographic changes should be made in SDRR. Cohort is one of those that does not follow our 100-day rule. It's one of the only ones who does not follow our 100-day rule. You also want to know that tickets to change, reporting location for public reporting and non-participation requests in SDRR will require that IC enrollment records are matching for approval. You also want to, any verified transfers if necessary, for those non-participations, you want to make sure that you have those filled out for those particular students. And we'll look at what those codes are, and also what those graduation codes and things like that and G codes are for your students. Now, another thing is that our data last updated from Infinite Campus is reflected in SDRR as of August the 8th. So keep that in mind, that is the date that we updated your cohort information. We always tell you that whenever SDRR is open for cohort, and we'll tell you when the next one will be as well when you get to it. And I'll show you what that looks like. Another thing is that we also have students who track back to an A1, A5, or A6 school where the student was last primarily enrolled for in-person and virtual students. And that's where cohort will land you. It's not the 100-day, it's where the student was last primarily enrolled in your district, unless the student was a verified transfer or a Kentucky Educational Collaborative for State Agency Children, which is KECSAC. And remember, KECSAC students also have to be in Infinite Campus and have to be marked as well. And you want to make sure that your enrollment is correct for your students, because those enrollments are going to be important, by looking for cohort. District and school staff can change accountable school and file non-participation SDRR during data review. All the other demographic fields must be, you can change some of them here, but then others have to make sure to, any changes that you make in SDRR that you also make sure are correct in Infinite Campus. Also, another important thing is you're going to look at, you can filter up at the top by SSID number, their first name, last name. You can filter by their district, school, grade, their test type, their participation status. Also, that on-time status is another important thing that you can filter by, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute, how important that is. And then accountability, and then also if the student had an IEP or EL. And then once you click on your cohort student listings in SDRR, you're going to get to this screen, and it's going to show you all the demographics for that student who is in grade 12. It'll also tell you that their last enrolled school right here, their accountable school, and their last enrolled school. And that's why I told you that enrollment in Infinite Campus is always correct for our students, because the last enrolled is where the accountable school is. And so that's a little bit different than what we do for during data review for our other areas for assessment. Another thing is if you've got any verified transfers, you can go ahead, if you didn't file those back, through the time that cohort was open throughout the year up until July, you can go back in and you can go in and do a verified transfer if necessary. You want to make sure that it also shows that in Infinite Campus. And then, you always want to look at all the demographics. Another important thing is your diploma type. Diploma type is going to be another one for cohort that you want to always look at for 4-year and 5-year. And you can filter, if you leave on your student listings just cohort, it'll have both 4- and 5-year. Or you can look at each student listing individually and go into the 4-year and to the 5-year cohort and make sure. Another important thing is the end status. Got the right G codes in there. You got the right diploma types. You also got the end date correctly in there. And now let's look at this on time status, because yes is going to be great for you. But like we said, if you leave the drop-down value set to no, you can pull all your students, whether they are yes, no, or NA. But if you go up and you want to filter, because you've gone to your spreadsheets and you're like, what is going on? Why does this student, you always want to filter on your spreadsheets too, as well, to those no students, because those no students are going to count against you. And so let's talk about what the yes, no, and NA means. So when I'm looking at when it says yes on that on-time status, all students who graduated in 4 year for a 4-year report or 5 years for a 5-year report with a regular high school diploma will be that. Note for preliminary reports, grade 12 students with blank in statuses are temporarily set to on-time status. Near the end of the school year, any student in grade 12 who does not have a graduation in status of G1 to a G4 will be changed to not on time. This is what we were talking about, that it was updated monthly after G codes are entered in Infinite Campus, and many students will change to on time. So that's why it's very important that you filled out the graduation tab and the G codes were in there correctly, because you don't want your kids to be not on time unless it's a valid reason why they're not on time. And no, let's take a look at those. First, look at the students who are listed as no. These students should be either cohort students who have not graduated, who either have a dropout withdrawal codes of W23, W24, W25, a CO1, or a W22 with no following enrollment. They earned a adult GED W27 or earned an alternative diploma. Alternative diplomas and GEDs are not defined by the U.S. Department of Education as a regular high school diploma. So those students, if the student graduates on time with a regular diploma prior to July 31st, they should be listed as yes, on time. But keep in mind that, those alternative diplomas for our alternate assessment students and our GED students, those will count, those are counting against you as not on time, and there's nothing you can do about those. NAs, these are students who've been marked as non-participation because they are a verified transfer. Their withdrawal codes of a W20, a W21, a W22 with a following enrollment in a Kentucky public school, or W29. Incorrect cohort year with the correct date the student first entered 9th grade, entered on the graduation time in IC. Deceased, W08 withdrawal code, or withdrawn due to medical issues, which W07 withdrawal code. Note, W22 withdrawals are only used for transfers between Kentucky public schools. Out-of-state enrollments are indicated with the in status of W29. If a school ends an enrollment with a W22 and there is not an enrollment in another Kentucky public school, after the W22, the student will remain a dropout. This applies to students with a no-show enrollment at the beginning of the school year. So there's lots of things you always want to, like I said, IC is very important to always go back and make sure that information is correct in there, because that will affect your cohort. Now, verified transfers. When filing a non-participation in SDR for cohort, here are those withdrawal codes and what those mean, because I know I went through it a lot, but I try to also show you this resource too, to help you with verified transfers and what those specific codes are when you're filing those. Also, another thing that I wanted to let you know are your dropouts or GED recipients, not on time students. These are these codes and what, why they're showing not on time for you and for your student listings. So this is always going to be important. And you're probably thinking, Chris, where can I find all of those resources? You know, where can I find these withdrawal codes and the dropout and GED recipient codes as well, all of these CO1s and Ws and etc. You can always find this underneath the I Need Help button in SDRR, and we'll talk about additional resources too to assist you. Here it is continued with some of those for not on time. That way, when you're filtering that spreadsheet for cohort, you'll know why those students are not on time for you, showing no for you, or whether they're showing yes or NA, and what those mean. That's an important piece when you're filtering by your spreadsheets, because, you know, to be able to make any changes to those no's, etc., you have to go in and, you know, into SDRR or to Infinite Campus and make those changes. Now let's talk about the next part of this section that's important too, is your post-secondary readiness scores, because not only, you know, we have a cohort that's open at this time, but we also have post-secondary readiness scores, and that's another important piece for our high schools to take a look at. So all of the academic readiness for post-secondary readiness is updated in SDRR, except the KDE approved dual credit courses that it's in TEDS. And students transferred from out of state and took the SAT, you always want to make sure that you email KDE assessment and let them know if you've got any SAT scores. But here are all the academic readiness that you will see for in SDRR that you can go in and make sure is correct for your students. Now, this is academic readiness. Remember, for career readiness and dual credit, you always want to go back to the Office of Career and Technical Education to see if there's any issues with your career data. And keep in mind that when you download your spreadsheets out, to begin this work for post-secondary readiness, that when you're looking at those, that you go in and you'll notice that you will have on the spreadsheets both academic and career readiness on the spreadsheets. But in SDRR, you're only going to see the academic readiness, because for, like I said, for dual credit and for career data, that is done in another office, and that's the Office of Career and Technical Education. Now, here is a resource for you to kind of help you. The benchmark scores for academic readiness and post-secondary readiness can be found in the I Need Help button in SDRR. If you're looking at your post-secondary readiness and go, well, what was that benchmark again? Or what should that student be for for post-secondary readiness academic? Here are all the benchmarks. It'll tell you all the assessments for AccuPlacer, for the ACT. It'll go into AP for advanced placement. It'll go into ALEX, which is the Mathematic Cambridge Advance. You also look at your, you'll see for dual credit what you have to have. It'll also have the EdReady, the GED college readiness. You'll also see the IB, International Baccalaureate, Coyote, and then also the transition attainment record for our alternate assessment students as well in high school, and what they have to have for that as well in those subjects. And so make sure to go back, if you have any questions about this, to go back either to look on this particular presentation, or you can also go into the I Need Help button, and that's underneath every screen when you log into SDRR. Now, there are no non-participations for post-secondary readiness. All students who receive a G code in Infinite Campus are included. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that particular one because, just like some of the changes for cohort that I talked about, there are some changes for, there's some differences for post-secondary readiness. Now, if a student met the benchmarks, it'll show an SDRR and it'll say what the benchmark was, that the student met the benchmark, what it was in, and the test that was given. If the student did not meet the benchmark, it'll show an SDR. You click on, if you've got what you will want to do is upload an official scanned copy of the vendor report. And you'll click on the update score and be able to upload that form into SDRR. And if approved, you will locate that in our tickets to be able to file that. So if you've got a student who is not showing that they met the benchmarks, and the student met the benchmarks, and you have the official copy from the vendor, you want to make sure that you upload that because you're going to open up a ticket in SDRR. And then you'll be able to go in underneath post-secondary readiness scores and be able to upload that that scanned file from your computer into SDRR for the data review section of this. Keep in mind that demographics may be reviewed and accountability changes for post-secondary may be requested in the data review section of SDRR, not underneath post-secondary readiness scores that we're talking about now. You would have to go back to module number 1 to data review and be able to make any demographics and accountability changes to your students for post-secondary readiness. Because during this module, for post-secondary readiness scores, you're only looking at the scores for the student. Now let's see what that's going to look like. Now there's only one column now to show the post-secondary readiness scores instead of having 2 buckets for academic part of post-secondary readiness. So that way like I said, you'll be able to go in SDRR to the student listings for post-secondary readiness scores when that opens, and be able to go into the filter by SSID number, last name, first name, the district, the school. You can also filter by post-secondary, the post-secondary readiness, the particular test that you're wanting to look at, etc. And then the benchmarks, if you want to look at, if you want to filter who's met benchmarks or who hasn't real quick. You can also, you want to look at those spreadsheets. Like I said, it's so important that, you as a DAC go in and make sure that you have downloaded those spreadsheets for post-secondary readiness to kind of help you with this work. And also for your backs and things who are helping you with this work in SDRR. If any changes, you can filter by the spreadsheets and then go into SDRR and make those changes. You can't, please don't, I can't say this enough, please do not make the changes on the spreadsheets. You have to make them in SDRR for them to show up. And sometimes we have people who have done that, and sometimes they catch it before data review ends, but then sometimes, they don't catch it until, till toward after it's publicly reported and we get to that 10-day regulatory data review. And, it's always important to be proactive and, get those changes now for individual students, because this is the time to do it before it's publicly reported. Then here's what you're going to do if you've got to change that particular one, and you've got the file report and it showed that the student, you have that official scanned copy from the vendor that shows that the student did meet the benchmarks, but it didn't show it in SDRR. So what you'll do is you'll click on that, be able to update this, and what you're going to do is you're going to see this particular screen will pop up. Once you click on that, it'll allow you to choose the test, the subject, the score, benchmark met, you would want to say yes. And then remember how I told you that, there was that, if you forgot, what the benchmark should have been for that particular test, guess what? It's also right here on the screen for you as well. And then you'll want to scan that official copy from the vendor that shows that the student met the benchmarks for post-secondary readiness academic. And find that on your, in the file. You'll browse your computer, find the file, choose that file, and you'll upload it in there and then click update. That way it saves all the information and then it goes to us to be able to approve or deny it. Now, SDRR resources for both cohort and post-secondary readiness. I've talked about several of those. You'll notice that you do have to go, I have linked here to get to your WAPOC, which your web, your web apps admin point of contact for your district. If you click on that, it's alphabetical by district, and you can choose your particular district and be able to see who your WAPOC is, especially if you're a new person, either as doing this work in SDRR. Always check with them, make sure you've got the right permissions. Keep in mind that, your WAPOC is the one who will grant you those permissions. Our office does not. You also want to review the SDRR web pages on the KDE website. You'll be able to get to the to this PowerPoint and video for you. It's recorded on, and it'll be ready for you on that. Also, go back to and download your student listings from Spring Rosters to kind of make sure that those changes from Spring Rosters are showing up on your spreadsheets, your new spreadsheets that you're downloading now during data review. Also, to help with student data detail, you've got, like I said, the web applications login to get to those spreadsheets. You want to go to the student data detail, go to other underneath that student data detail as a DAC. District assessment coordinators are the only ones who have access. Then also for your, you have the 100-day anonymous quiz and the 100-day tool to also test your accountability knowledge, and then those different scenarios as well. And keep in mind, this is going to be important for your post-secondary readiness, because remember, cohort doesn't follow that. We have a specific resource for cohort tool. And then Sandbox. Sandbox is one of those that's going to be available to you for training any staff that you have for cohort and post-secondary readiness scores. You can go into Sandbox, and that's the training course, so that way you're not in the live version. But keep in mind, it uses the same login credentials for both. And as a district assessment coordinator, you're going to be able to see, when you get those permissions, you'll be able to see everything in the district in SDRR. As a BAC, you'll only see the ones that you're associated with at your school level and have access to that particular information in SDRR. This concludes the fall reporting cohort and post-secondary readiness scores training. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us with any questions that you have. You can always, you'll see on the left-hand side is our DAC info at education.ky.gov. That's for our assessment support side. That's usually the ones you're talking to on a daily basis. And then on the other side is our data issues and any data issues and cohort that you have. And that is our data side of our office, and that is KDE assessment at education.ky.gov. I do want to thank you all again for all of your time and hard work that you put in to make sure that the data is correct for public reporting. And I know this is a busy time, and you're taking time out of your busy schedules to do that. And I do appreciate you for watching this and for all you do in the district, because you make our, our lives easier as well, about going in and watching the presentations and, learning what it is to what you're supposed to do in SDR, and then also for you to ask us any questions that you may have for us. So thank you all again. I hope you all have a great beginning of your school year, and go forth and conquer.